I definitely remember that night here. Again, like, this whole area was packed with hundreds and hundreds of people. I remember so well, again, when they were out in front of GRPD trying to squeeze my way through to get to the front. But another thing I remember so much for that night is everyone kept saying, have the same energy in November, have the same energy in November. A lot of them, you know, not just wanting to see just reform there, but also policy reform. They want change. So, and I know that's something you've been looking into.
Yeah, 30 states, as well as Washington, D.C., actually have passed legislation when it comes to police reform, things from disciplinary actions to training. 19 states have not passed any reform, and Michigan is among that group. It's not like we don't have bills floating through the legislature. There are 11 currently pending in Lansing. None of them have passed yet, though. 9 minutes and 29 seconds, a brutal video and a death at the hands of police sparking one of the most widespread pushes for reform in law enforcement in decades. 30 states and D.C. have enacted new police reform laws since May 25th of 2020. Legislation in 25 of those states specifically had to do with use of force, police misconduct, or discipline practices. But according to databases put together by both the Brennan Center and the National Conference of State Legislatures, Michigan isn't among them. One bill working its way through Lansing right now was authored by District 39 Representative Ryan Berman. Berman's House Bill 4525 would require all Michigan police cadets to have a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before walking onto the job.
Grappling of takedowns, being on the ground, getting back up to your feet.
That skill, Berman suggests, would give officers another option, a less violent option than guns, tasers, or fists.
So then they don't have to use excessive force. They don't have to punch somebody 15 times to get somebody to submit. It's really to help them so these situations don't happen, so they don't use unnecessary force, and they can have more tools in their toolbox, if you will, to handle any situation that arises.
Speaking to Fox 17 this week, GRPD Chief Eric Payne said his department is looking into participation in the 8 Can't Wait program, working towards legislation in every state that would ban chokeholds, shooting at moving cars, and 6 other controversial practices. In Congress, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which President Biden aimed to have signed by the now past anniversary of Floyd's death, is still sitting dormant in Congress. And we should also note in our interview with the chief, he said one thing GRPD does not do is no-knock search warrants.
Yeah, and that is something, you know, that was led to the fate of Breonna Taylor, who we all know is from Grand Rapids. She was shot and killed in March 2020 in her own home during a botched raid by the Louisville Police Department. And, you know, over the year, I've gotten a chance to really know her family, and they are heartbroken still. They're going to continue to be heartbroken. They say healing really can't come because no matter what, nothing's going to bring Breonna back. And they always talked about her being kind-hearted. You know, she was always helping people. I remember getting a chance to talk to her teacher, and her teacher said she was so excellent at math. She was, you know, helping everyone else. So it's those things that you miss, and that's why they fight so hard. And that's why so many activists fought so hard just to even get any sort of change. And that no-knock warrant is one of them.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah, and we talked to Tawana Gordon. She is a cousin of Breonna Taylor, about what she remembers from that night.
For Grand Rapids, and that night, you had a bunch of frustrated people. There was a pot that was boiling. That police work is hard work, I get it, but stick to your trainings. What we see and observe in some of these videos, we know is not part of their trainings.
Yeah, and so it's all coming back to that whole issue of policy change and actually getting bills passed. Again, Michigan has 11 currently pending that have to do with law enforcement, just hanging out there in the House and the Senate in Lansing right now. So